It's already bad, and it could get a whole lot worse. I'm talking about what the Atlantic is calling the coming food stamp crisis. Right now, states are scrambling to meet an end of September SNAP deadline. Naturally, errors occur in the SNAP system. According to the Atlantic, errors occurred in 10.6% of payments last year. But as part of President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, states now have to keep those errors below a federal limit. If they don't, by the end of next month, they could be forced to take on hundreds of millions of dollars in new costs, which essentially means more tough decisions are coming for states that are already balancing tight budgets, whether it's finding new money to cover SNAP, cutting programs elsewhere, or changing how food assistance is doled out. The reality is people, kids, are already struggling because of these historic cuts. Just look at the local headlines we're seeing across the country this week. In Connecticut,
You heard the switch up. You heard the switch up. So I kind of, I feel like I already know the narrative that's trying to get painted. Because listen here again.
cutting programs elsewhere, or changing how food assistance is doled out. The reality is people, kids, are already
People, kids. He got off script for a second because it seems like they may be trying to go the kid angle. I want to hear them out as far as the rationale for why people are getting cut, but it already seems like it's like, oh, thousands of kids are losing access to food. It seems like that's kind of how they're trying to frame it. There could be a multitude and a plethora of reasons why people are losing their benefits who just so happen to have kids. And a lot of reasons why someone might lose their benefits who has kids can actually be some good reasons. And by good reasons, that could mean that they got a job and maybe even a good job to where the income is high enough to where they no longer need the program. As well as they mentioned something in there where they were referring to the error limits in the bill now. So where if certain states, because this is something relatively new, and I think this is going to affect a lot of people in a lot of states, because if they don't keep their hours, or excuse me, not hours, their errors below a certain amount, then they could lose their funding or a portion of their funding, and then they would have to supplement that on their own behalf without federal support. So I'm curious, what is the error limit? So let me look that up really quick. All right. So what they were referring to in the news article is the new error rate threshold. So what that refers to is states with error rates below 6% will continue to see the federal government foot 100% of the cost of benefits. But states with error rates over 6%, the majority will pay at least 5% of SNAP benefit costs starting in the fiscal year 2028. So this don't even start until 2028. And if you have error rates over 6%, you will pay at least 5% of SNAP benefits costs starting in fiscal year 2028. The share increases when error rates hit certain thresholds. So remember, it said you will pay at least 5%. So it looks like this is what's going to be the differentiator, the 3-tier penalty structure. So states with error rates at or above 6% will be responsible for covering 5%, 10%, or 15% of SNAP benefits in the coming years, with a higher error rate placing a state in a higher cost share bracket. Okay. So basically, how few states actually meet the threshold. The target is an error rate of 6%, but few states are meeting that benchmark. In the latest batch of data released in June, there were more states with double the target rate than states that fell under it. So Congress set the required error rate so low so that only 7 states would have achieved it in 2024. It says the national average, which is the national average SNAP payment error rate, was about 10.62% in the fiscal year 2025, which is pretty much double the 6%. So this is going to nick a lot of people, which is ultimately it's going to make them responsible for a portion of the benefits, which if you really think about the logic there, real quick though, if you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. It only takes a second and it actually helps out more than you know. And it's literally just a click. It's literally just a click. So if you're here anyway, you might as well click that like button. And also if you can hype the video as well. Now, if you really think about that logic there, it actually kind of makes sense because it's incentivizing you to clean up the errors, maybe the fraud, all that good stuff. It's incentivizing the states. Otherwise, you're going to have to actually pay out of your state or local budget, whatever that looks like, county, state, whatever, city. You're going to have to pay for these benefits out of your money unless you just make sure that everything is being done correctly in the way that it's supposed to. So that kind of makes sense, especially if there's high error rates, because think about it. As taxpayers, look at this like we're stakeholders and these localities, these jurisdictions, or just the federal government in general. These are companies that we invest into as far as our tax dollars. So, yeah, fix these errors. Because if you think about it, it's like this is incentivizing them to stop wasting some of our dollars, at least on a federal level. And then you're incentivized to do that so that you don't get hit budgetarily on a state level or a local level, whatever that looks like. So, again, logically, it makes sense. And again, it would incentivize to, clear up the errors, in my opinion. It would incentivize you to start getting that in order, getting your affairs in order. Y'all, if you could like the video, let's get back into it.
Cutting programs elsewhere or changing how food assistance is doled out. The reality is people, kids, are already struggling because of these historic cuts. Just look at the local headlines we're seeing across the country this week. In Connecticut, nearly 19,000 children have lost access to federal nutrition benefits since July of last year, according to state officials there. Over in Maryland, more than 35,000 people are now off SNAP benefits because of federal changes, according to new data from the Maryland Department of Human Services. And in Virginia, more than 100,000 people have lost their benefits, according to the state's Department of Social Services.
Hold on. There's no context. See, and you see what he started with again. Remember when he slipped up, he said more than this many people, kids, excuse me. And then they started with the kids at the top. Nearly 18,900 CT children have lost SNAP benefits over the past year. Then they just go to federal changes to SNAP costs 36,000 Marylanders their food benefits. If they could have said kids there, they would have said kids there, but I guess they didn't do the data granularly there or whatever the case. Maybe it's just not happening there with people with kids. Maybe there, the 36,000 Marylanders that they're referring to, who knows? For all we know, they could be people who were fraudsters to begin with. They could, if they could have said kids, they would have said kids. So perhaps those 36,000 Marylanders were fraudulently abusing the system. Or perhaps they just started making more income and they used it as this stepping stone that we always talk about, right? Isn't that the point of the program? The point of the program is a stepping stone, right? Not to be used forever. So people should be losing or ascending from their benefits to begin with. Then the other one says 100,000 fewer Virginians receiving SNAP benefits over the last year. You got to get the context. Why is that? Why are they not receiving it anymore? Because just given this information, this could be optimistic news. This could be great news for all we know. But it's being framed in a negative way. But let's get back into it, because I guess what they're saying is that because families are getting kicked off, they're now turning to food banks. So I want to see how they're going to be able to bridge that and contextualize that.
People have lost their benefits, according to the state's Department of Social Services. It's a difficult reality families are now living, and it's widespread. A single mother in Florida who relies on SNAP benefits said it's more than just food to her, it's a sense of security. Take a listen to what she shared with the nonprofit advocacy group Parents Together.
My family is on SNAP benefits, and what that means for me is being able to provide a stable meal for my family each night, to just have that security of making sure that my children aren't going hungry every day. To have that put in jeopardy by any budget cuts, it removes that security that I as a parent have. I know that being on SNAP is looked down on by a lot of people, but we're all families just trying to take care of our children. It gives me that extra boost of I can take care of my kids. I'm going to make sure my kids eat regardless. If that means I don't, it is what it is.
You said you're going to make sure that they eat regardless? Well, that's admirable. But I'm sorry, ma'am. You don't get a cookie for that. That's your job. That's your job. Kids, you chose to have kids. You put the plural on that? Kids? That's your job to make sure that they eat regardless. If you're going to make sure that they eat regardless, then good. Then we can take you out of this. I don't know why we have you on the news station yet, because you're going to make sure that they do, like you're supposed to. Listen, we've seen people come on. It's funny. I feel like people will come on the news, but then there'll be them same people that we review all the time who will come on TikTok with their food stamps and be bragging about how they're getting over. And yeah, I'm getting food stamps. We done seen so many. Do I have to bring something to the top of the fold? I can do tons of examples. The the data's there, and the videos that I've done is there of people who are clearly abusing it. But typically we don't focus on that. A law got passed and we just want to frame it broadly as far as just kids and families are losing SNAP benefits. Could it be possible that a law got passed and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, which is weeding out the people who actually have been abusing it and don't need it and haven't been trying to get off of it and ultimately just aren't trying in general? Because another thing that they're not addressed in this article is there's people losing their benefits. You see how they've conflated multiple things? There's people losing their benefits also because they didn't want to do the work requirements. And don't get the word work requirements mixed up. You don't actually have to necessarily work. You can volunteer, you can do job training, or you can work. So you actually have a lot of different options. And you have to do that half of a regular work week of a regular American who's funding these programs to begin with. You only have to do 20 hours a week in any of those things. Volunteering, working actually, which especially if you have kids, you should expect to have to do that. Or what was the other one? Job training. Workforce training, some type of training that gives you a skill and shows that you have the intention of improving your situation and stepping off of the program eventually.
I can take care of my kids. I'm going to make sure my kids eat regardless. If that means I don't, it is what it is.
Joining me now is
I already know what y'all gonna say in the comments about that, what she just said. All right, let's see what she has to say.
Marcia Campo. She is the food services manager at OpenM, which provides essential food services programs to the people of Akron, Ohio. Marcia, good morning, and thanks for joining us. What could this September deadline mean for your work there in Ohio at OpenM?
Well, Vaughn, first of all, thank you for having me on, and thank you for highlighting the struggle of everyday Americans. We're seeing more and more people need our services. Our food pantry is busier than ever. And it's not just somebody that needs something temporary. This is essential. This is what we're finding. We're finding working families are coming to our pantry now, seniors on a fixed income, grandparents that are raising grandchildren, and the benefits are just not enough. And now with the looming deadline coming up, I don't know how we're going to be able to stretch any further than we are already.
According, Marcia, to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, quote, it's very likely that the number of children receiving SNAP has dropped by more than 1.5 million since July of 2025. Can you, number one, give me a sense of what the actual change means and who is qualifying and what the ramifications of the law passed last year are? And the second part of this is that the idea is often that there are too many people that are relying on federal handouts. Oftentimes that's the argument that Republicans especially are on the front lines of making. Can you tell me about the reality on the ground and who is receiving these benefits?
Right. So there was a lot of change last year.
Man, oh my goodness. What type of feeling are y'all getting from listening to this? What type of feeling? Oh man, are people not upset about the fact that we don't just get objective, unbiased news? It's so clear. Things are so divided, and people just can't keep their political positions or maybe just their biases as a whole out of reporting what should be objective news. Can you not feel it? Don't just always rely on things per se, even though you can really listen to it too and hear it just about. But just feel it. It's like it's so obvious that we can't just get the news. Listen to this part again.
And that there are too many people that are relying on federal handouts, oftentimes policy priorities. Quote, it's very likely that the number of children receiving SNAP has dropped by more than 1.5 million since July of 2025.
Listen to this.
Can you, number one, give me a sense of what the actual change means and who is qualifying and what the ramifications of the law passed last year are? And the second part of this is that the idea is...
Okay, here it goes, right here. Listen to this part.
Often that there are too many people that are relying on federal handouts. Oftentimes that's the argument that Republicans especially are on the front lines of making. Can you tell me about the reality on the ground and who is receiving these benefits?
Right. So there was a lot of change last year in the benefits and who qualifies. Veterans and homeless are...
He framed it like, yeah, that's the argument that, the red basically says that there's a lot of people on the benefits and stuff. Man, just give us the news, man. Just give us the news. We don't have to hear about the arguments and all that. Like, it's kind of clear. I feel like when you're watching the news, it shouldn't be obvious where somebody stands politically. Doesn't today, you can basically pretty much be able to understand what you don't even sometimes have to hear people talk. It's just obvious where people stand politically now. You're not supposed to just be able to look at a person and be able to know what side of the political spectrum that they're on. Like, I shouldn't be able to do Vegas odds and I feel like, man, this is a sure bet. I could guess where you are politically. And there's nothing wrong with advocating for your political party. But when we talk about the news, people want their news as unbiased and as objective as possible. People just, because what do you ultimately want? You want the truth. People give us the truth and then let us take it from there. You remember that old quote, you can't handle the truth. Okay, I'm not a chick, man. Give me my news and let me take it and run with it. If I'm listening to the news, which the news is typically, no matter how you look at it, is going to be some type of grimness to it, some type of fear mongering to it, right? Some type of, oh, this is a crisis. Even as I'm looking over here, another article from Fox, affordability crisis fuels a new wave. The news is already designed to put people in their emotions instantly and ideally give a sense of urgency and a sense of crisis. So just go ahead and give it to me straight, because you're going to frame it as a crisis anyway, so we can handle it. That's just my little 2 cents.
Who is receiving these benefits?
Right. So there was a lot of change last year in the benefits and who qualifies. Veterans and homeless are no longer, they have to have a work requirement, 20 hours a week. They have to volunteer or work in order to receive those SNAP benefits. There are.
Whoa, where did we get that from? Wait, hold on.
Who qualifies. Veterans and homeless are no longer, they have to have a work requirement, 20 hours a week. They have to volunteer or work in order to receive those SNAP benefits.
Veterans and homeless have to work to receive SNAP benefits. Okay. Again, veterans and homeless. You see, they're just hitting everything. Children, next thing is coming is disabled. They're going to see, but that would just be a blatant lie. But if she could have threw that in there, listen, you see how they keep jumping from one victim class to the other, from one thing that's going to get sympathy. If she could have said children and disabled have to work under the work requirements, otherwise, but obviously that would be untrue. But if they could have, they'd have said children and disabled. If they wouldn't have gotten any blowback from that. But so since they couldn't use that segment as what they're saying, people have to work, and because they can't meet work requirements, now they're kicked off the program. Because she couldn't say that, she moved to the next one, which is veterans and homeless have to meet the work requirements, which I told you the work requirements thing was coming, because that's really the main thing that's getting people off these programs, especially when you think about there's able-bodied people. Even the group that she just tried to say in order to gain sympathy because she couldn't use the regular portion. Why wouldn't a veteran or a homeless person be working or go and volunteer or be open to doing some type of job training? You can go volunteer too. If you're homeless, why not go volunteer? If you're a veteran, why not go volunteer or just work? If these are able-bodied people, you can be a do you not know you could be a 30-something-year-old veteran, a 40-something-year-old veteran? See, she's trying to give off the impression of a disabled veteran, but she would have said that if she could. So if it's a disabled veteran, then they wouldn't have that problem. But if we're just talking about a regular veteran who can work and who could even possibly be getting paid already from the military or whatever, but if we're just talking about a veteran who can work, why wouldn't they be working or doing something if they're going to be going and applying for food stamps? There's benefits offered for veterans in the US, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you just don't have to do anything. Especially if you apply for a program, that's actually fair if you think about it. Everyone has to meet the work requirements. Again, even the work requirements have nuance in there. People with young children aren't affected. I think if your kids are under the age of 7, if you have a kid under the age of 7, then you also don't have to do the work requirements. So again, just give it to me unfiltered. Give it to me objective. I shouldn't have to be well, it is a good practice to filter things and discern things for yourself, but goodness gracious, I shouldn't have to scrutinize it to this extent.
There are seniors that are raising their grandchildren that don't have the capabilities to go out and work. They raised the limit from 55 years old to 64 years old. So those people that fall just in that little age gap are now having to work in order to receive SNAP benefits. Like I said, our pantry is busier than ever. These are people.
Wasn't the retirement age always 65? It's always been 65. So they would have been working anyway, wouldn't they? Especially if do you not understand if you're in poverty, then you definitely don't get to retire early and just not work. These are minimal, remember, These are not, this is half of the traditional regular work week, which is 40 hours. They only have to work 20 hours. A lot of people will argue that they've already been working. They already do work 20 hours, which I just said 40 is the traditional, but be clear. In this economy, in this day and age, I bet you if they pulled up the data, the average American works far more than 40 hours. So then put that into perspective. 20 hours isn't much. You're working part-time. And again, the age of retirement is 65. So if you're in a position to where you don't bring in enough income, you don't have enough savings to where you have to go on government assistance, why wouldn't you be working at least part-time?
People that have never had to use a food pantry before. And we're seeing more and more families that are coming in, mothers that say that they have to make essential choices or, difficult decisions every single day, feed their family or, pay rent or fill a prescription for their child or feed them or pay rent. It's terrible. What we're seeing right now, Vaughn, it's awful.
Marcia, more than 200 mayors signed a recent letter calling on the Senate to delay more SNAP cuts, saying America's mayors are on the front lines of deepening food security crisis. Food security is foundational to the health, prosperity, and resilience of American cities. Hunger is not a partisan issue, and efforts to address food insecurity should rise above political divisions. When you're talking about what you want folks in Washington to understand, not only just what families are going through, but also the burden, its impact on organizations and people like you, are you?
Man, once you start actually seeing things for what they are, it's like, man, it's really hard to. Are people not tired of people having these PR things and just basically just playing in your face? That thing that he just read didn't from the mayor. Didn't that just seem so PR and just like it's trying to frame it as a certain thing? Like it's when both parties go back and forth with each other, and it's just like, oh, this person is doing this, but really they're misconstruing the facts a little bit. Because listen to how he wrote that. Listen to this again.
A letter calling on the Senate to delay more SNAP cuts, saying America's mayors are on the front lines of deepening food security crisis. Food security is
America's mayors are on the front lines of deepening food security crisis. Food security is foundational to the health, prosperity, and resilience of American cities. Hunger is not a partisan issue, and no efforts to address food insecurity should rise above political divisions. Huh? What? I don't like just playing in my face, man. I can see through a lot of stuff. Sometimes I wish I could just be, you know, just absorb it and just take it for what it is. But I see people want to go back to this. I'm gonna be honest. It's been a lot of transparency lately. I hope politics stay like this moving forward, where you stay updated and things stay transparent in the way that it is. It's never going to be fully transparent, but I've never really seen a time where it's so transparent and you kind of feel like you're getting the truth a little bit. And here's the thing: hunger is not a partisan issue, and efforts to address food insecurity should rise above political divisions. Snap cuts aren't because of political divisions. What are you talking about? Do you know what he's basically saying there? Oh, don't take it out on the people just because you hate us. That's kind of what he's saying right there. That has nothing to do with political divisions. If anything, I would think that they feel strongly enough about it to where you're probably going to actually lose out on some votes now. Because I'm sure there are some Republicans who are on food stamps or whatever who weren't expecting that to happen. This has nothing to do with political division. I think that's just really a point of contention. And I would say that it's always been on that side to where it's less government, less government. So you've seen a lot of government cuts in the form of jobs, in the form of certain benefits, and in the form of other programs, even nonprofits, everything. You've seen a lot of cuts, which is ultimately cuts in the spend as well. When you really think about it, it also has cut spend in certain areas that either may be getting abused, maybe not necessarily something that is essential or that effective or that important in their eyes, or we said not essential, and then also things that maybe just be getting defrauded in general, where you're just throwing money away. I think that's the main thing. But I just like to, I'm sorry, I just like to, I like to people to talk to me straight up. If it's not straight up, I really, we like, what are we talking for? And I like to be straight up. Me personally, that's how I like to live my life. So that's just how I feel. I think we're going to leave it there for the day, though. If you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. It only takes a second, and it actually helps out more than you know. And also, if you could hype the video, hype is a new feature that YouTube offers where it helps smaller content creators like myself. And basically, when you hype, it actually pushes us to the extent that it pushes the larger content creators. So you just press the hype button and it shows the points. And since I'm a smaller creator, a smaller channel, we actually get more points per hype. And hype was designed for smaller channels. So that's why. But if you come across a video and you don't see the hype button, then it's probably been over 7 days. And hype usually vanishes after 7 days. So it's usually best practice if you want to hype to just go ahead and hype while the iron is hot on a newer video. And then also if you want to become a member of the channel as well, the join button's on the video. And what becoming a member of the DXU family will come with is you would get badges next to your comments where it will show people that you are a member whenever you leave a comment, as well as you would get early access to content and also exclusive content that's not available for everyone else on YouTube. So again, if you want to become a member, the join button's on the video. But until then, I'll see you in the next video.